Trooping the Color 2024, Major Generals Review March Up the Mall Horse Guards, Royal Guard. It was the day of Trooping the Color 2024, and long before the crowds arrived, preparation had already begun. The wide road known as the Mall stood clean and open, lined with flags that rested gently in the early breeze. The red surface of the road looked brighter than usual, as if it knew it would soon carry history once again. Behind the closed gates of horse guards, soldiers were awake and moving with purpose. There was no rush, no shouting, only calm voices and steady actions. Every man and woman knew exactly what needed to be done. Uniforms were laid out with care, pressed to perfection. Boots were polished until they reflected light. Buttons were checked again and again. Nothing was left to chance. For these soldiers, the day was not just about appearance. It was about honoring a tradition that had lasted for generations. In the stables nearby, the horses were being prepared just as carefully. Each animal was brushed, cleaned, and fitted with ceremonial gear. The handlers spoke softly to them, calming them with gentle touches and familiar voices. These horses had trained for moments like this. They were used to crowds, music, and long marches, but still, each ceremony demanded respect and focus. The bond between horse and rider showed in small details, in the way a horse stood still, trusting the person beside it. As the morning light grew stronger, senior officers arrived at horse guards. Among them were the major generals, whose role in the day carried great responsibility. Their faces showed calm confidence, shaped by years of service and experience. They understood the importance of what was about to take place. The review they would conduct was not a simple inspection. It was a moment where discipline, readiness, and tradition came together. Their presence reminded everyone that this ceremony was not just for show, but a serious duty. Inside the preparation areas, soldiers adjusted their uniforms one last time. Some stood quietly, focused on their breathing. Others exchanged short words, offering encouragement. There was pride in their posture, but also humility. Each of them knew they were part of something bigger than themselves. Many had trained for months, repeating the same movements until they became natural. Today was the day when all that effort would be seen by the world. Outside, London slowly woke up. People began to gather along the mall, families, visitors, and longtime supporters of the ceremony. Some arrived very early, holding small flags and cameras. Others stood quietly, simply wanting to witness the moment. There was a shared feeling among them, a sense that they were about to see something special. The sound of footsteps, distant music practice, and gentle conversations filled the air. The mall itself felt like a bridge between past and present. For centuries, it had hosted moments of celebration, duty, and remembrance. Today, it would once again become a path of honor. As barriers were checked and final arrangements made, officials ensured everything was safe and ready. The focus was always on respect, order, and smooth movement. Every detail mattered. Back at horse guards, the soldiers formed their lines for the upcoming review. They stood tall, eyes forward, bodies still. The silence in that moment was powerful. It was broken only by small sounds, the soft movement of fabric, the quiet steps of officers walking into position. The Major General prepared to begin the review, aware that this first official moment set the tone for the entire day. The review was more than checking uniforms and alignment. It was a moment of trust. The Major General looked at each line, each face, understanding the effort behind the stillness. The soldiers showed no emotion, but inside, many felt a mix of pride and responsibility. They were representing not just themselves, but their units, their history, and their country. As the review approached, the sun rose higher, lighting the buildings around horse guards. The flags along the mall began to catch the light, their colors standing out against the sky. The city felt united in anticipation. Even those who were not directly involved sensed the importance of the moment. For the soldiers, This was a reminder of why they had chosen this path. The long hours of training, the strict discipline, and the personal sacrifices all led to days like this. Standing there, perfectly still, they were part of a living tradition. Each step they would later take up the mall would echo those who had marched before them. The Major General took position, ready to begin the formal review. In that instant, time seemed to slow. The noise of the city faded into the background. All attention focused on the soldiers, the horses, and the duty ahead. Trooping the Color 2024 was no longer just a date on the calendar. It had begun, shaped by preparation, respect, and a deep connection to history. This morning was only the start, but it carried the weight of the entire day. Every action taken so far built the foundation for what was to come. The march, the music, the public display would follow, but it all began here in these quiet hours, where discipline met tradition and the past stood beside the present. The moment the review was about to begin, the entire space at Horse Guards felt calm and focused. The soldiers stood in perfect lines, their posture straight and steady. Each face showed control and discipline. They did not move, even when the air shifted or a sound echoed nearby. This stillness was not easy. It was the result of long training and strong mental focus. Every soldier knew that the review was an important part of the ceremony, and they were ready. The Major General stepped forward with slow and measured steps. His uniform was neat, every detail correct. His presence carried authority, but also respect. He understood that the soldiers before him had worked hard to reach this moment. As he began the review, his eyes moved carefully across the ranks. He looked at how they stood, how they held themselves, and how they stayed united as one group. The review moved slowly, one line at a time. The Major General walked along the front of the formation, stopping at certain points. He checked the alignment of the soldiers, the condition of their uniforms, and their readiness. The soldiers remained still, their eyes forward, their minds focused. They were aware of every step he took, every pause he made, but they did not react. This was part of the discipline they had learned. Behind the scenes, officers watched closely. They knew how much effort had gone into preparing for this day. Training sessions had taken place early in the morning and late in the evening. Movements had been practiced again and again until they became natural. Mistakes were corrected, small details adjusted, and standards raised. Now, the review showed whether all that work had paid off. The sound of boots on the ground was soft but clear as the Major General moved along the lines. Occasionally, a quiet command was given, and a group adjusted slightly, always in perfect timing. These small movements showed how well the soldiers listened and responded. There was no confusion, no hesitation. Everything flowed smoothly. Nearby, the mounted soldiers waited with their horses. The animals stood calm and steady, trained to remain relaxed even in formal settings. The riders sat tall, holding the reins with care. They had also spent many hours training with their horses, building trust and understanding. During the review, this connection was clear. The horses responded to gentle signals, staying composed and alert. As the review continued, the atmosphere remained serious but respectful. This was not a moment for noise or celebration. It was a moment of assessment and recognition. The Major General knew that each soldier represented not only their unit, but also a long line of service members from the past. This understanding added weight to every step he took. In the distance, faint sounds from the mall could be heard. Crowds were gathering and music groups were preparing for the later march. But at Horse Guards, the focus stayed on the review. Time seemed to slow as the inspection continued. The soldiers felt the importance of the moment deep inside. For many of them, this was one of the most meaningful days of their service. The Major General paused at the center of the formation. He took a moment to observe the entire group. From this position, he could see the unity and balance of the soldiers. Their stillness showed confidence. Their presence showed pride. It was clear that they were ready to continue the ceremony and move forward with the march. As he resumed walking, his expression remained calm and thoughtful. He knew that the review was not just about finding mistakes. It was also about recognizing effort and commitment. The soldiers could not show emotion, but many felt a sense of relief as the review progressed smoothly. Each passing moment confirmed that they had prepared well. The officers assisting the review exchanged brief glances, quietly satisfied with what they saw. They had guided the soldiers through months of preparation, offering instruction and support. Seeing the results of that work was rewarding. The smooth flow of the review showed strong teamwork and leadership at every level. When the review reached its final stage, the Major General returned to his position. The soldiers remained in place, waiting for the signal that the inspection was complete. The silence during this moment was powerful. It felt like a pause before the next chapter of the ceremony. Everyone understood that the review had gone well. With a clear and controlled motion, the Major General signaled the end of the review. This simple action marked an important transition. The soldiers were no longer just preparing. They had been reviewed and approved. The ceremony could now move forward. Though the soldiers remained serious and still, there was a quiet sense of pride among them. They had met the standards expected of them. They had honored their training and their role. Soon they would move from horse guards to the mall, where thousands would watch them march. But for now, this moment belonged to them. As the Major General stepped back, he took one final look at the formation. He understood the responsibility he had just fulfilled. By completing the review, he had confirmed that tradition would continue with strength and respect. The ceremony was ready to unfold, supported by discipline, preparation, and unity. The review had ended, but its impact remained. It set the tone for everything that would follow. With calm confidence and steady focus, the soldiers prepared themselves for the next stage of trooping the color 2024, ready to step forward and carry tradition into the public eye. As the signal was given to move forward, the atmosphere began to change. The quiet focus of horse guards slowly turned into controlled motion. Soldiers adjusted their positions with smooth precision. Commands were given in low, steady voices, and every response came at the exact right moment. This was the transition everyone had trained for. The march up the mall was about to begin, and with it came the eyes of the public and the weight of history. The first steps were taken with perfect timing. Boots met the ground in a steady rhythm that echoed through the open space. The sound was firm but calm, showing confidence and control. Each soldier moved as part of a single body, not as individuals. Their training showed in every step. No one rushed, no one lagged behind. The formation stayed strong and balanced as it moved forward. As the soldiers left horse guards, the view opened toward the mall. The long red road stretched ahead, lined with flags and barriers. Crowds stood on both sides, watching closely. Some people held their breath without realizing it. Others quietly raised their phones or cameras, careful not to break the moment. The march had begun, and it captured everyone's attention. The sound of music slowly grew stronger. Drums set the pace, steady and clear. Brass instruments added strength and pride to the air. The music guided the march, helping the soldiers keep perfect timing. Each note felt connected to the movement, as if sound and step were one. The rhythm carried forward, filling the mall with energy and purpose. Mounted soldiers joined the scene, riding with calm focus. The horses moved in smooth steps, their heads steady, their bodies trained for long ceremonial marches. Despite the crowds and music, they remained calm. This calm came from trust. The riders guided them gently, using years of experience and quiet signals. Together, rider and horse moved as one, adding grace and strength to the march. The Major General and senior officers followed the movement with careful attention. Their role now was to observe and ensure everything continued smoothly. They watched the spacing between lines, the timing of steps, and the overall flow of the march. Everything needed to stay precise. Any small mistake could affect the entire formation, but the soldiers performed with confidence. Along the mall, people from many places stood side by side. Some had come from far away just to see this moment. Others were locals who had watched the ceremony many times before. Still, for everyone present, the feeling was special. There was a shared respect in the crowd. Conversations faded as the guards passed. The focus stayed on the march. The soldiers did not look at the crowd. Their eyes remained forward, their expressions calm and controlled. Inside, many felt pride, but they kept it quiet. This was not about showing emotion. It was about discipline and duty. Each soldier knew they were representing more than themselves. They carried the honor of their unit and the tradition of those who had marched before them. As the march continued, the formation stayed strong. The spacing between soldiers remained exact. The alignment of lines stayed straight. Even as the road stretched on, there was no sign of tiredness. Training had prepared them for this. Every step they took showed endurance and focus. The mall itself felt alive. The flags moved gently in the breeze. The sound of music echoed off nearby buildings. The bright uniforms stood out against the red road and green trees. It was a scene where past and present met. Many people watching felt a deep connection to history, even if they could not explain it in words. The horses added a steady rhythm of their own. Their movement blended with the sound of boots and music. Their polished gear reflected the light, adding to the visual strength of the march. Handlers and riders stayed alert, ready to guide the animals through any distraction. But the horses remained calm, showing the result of careful training and patience. As the guards moved further along the mall, the scale of the ceremony became clear. This was not just a short display. It was a long and demanding march that required strength, focus, and unity. Yet the soldiers showed no sign of strain. Their posture stayed upright, their steps even. The music continued without pause, keeping the pace steady. For many in the crowd, this moment would stay in memory for years. Children watched with wide eyes. Older viewers nodded with quiet respect. Some people felt emotional without knowing why. The march carried a sense of pride that reached beyond words. It reminded people of order, commitment, and shared values. The officers remained focused as the march progressed. They knew that every part of the ceremony mattered. The smooth movement up the mall showed that the review at Horse Guards had done its job. The soldiers were ready, and it showed in every detail. As the formation moved forward, the city seemed to pause. Traffic noise faded. Daily routine stopped. For this time, the mall belonged to the guards and the tradition they carried. The march created a feeling of unity between those walking and those watching. The soldiers continued onward, step after step, guided by music and discipline. The mall stretched ahead, and the ceremony moved closer to its next stage. This part of the journey was not just about movement. It was about showing what careful preparation and teamwork could achieve. By the time the guards reached further along the mall, the rhythm of the march felt natural and strong. The connection between soldiers, horses, music, and crowd formed a complete picture. It was clear that this was more than a public event. It was a living tradition, carried forward by those who marched with calm strength and quiet pride. The march up the mall stood as a powerful moment in Trooping the Color 2024. It showed discipline without force, pride without noise, and tradition without pause. With every step, the guards carried history forward, ready for what awaited them next. As the march continued, the Royal Guard moved deeper into the heart of the ceremony. By now, the rhythm felt steady and natural, as if the soldiers and horses were part of a single moving pattern. The long training hours showed clearly. Every step stayed even. Every turn stayed clean. The sound of boots, drums, and brass blended into one smooth flow that carried forward without pause. The royal guard stood out not because they demanded attention, but because of their calm strength. Their uniforms were sharp, their posture firm, and their movements controlled. Each guard knew their role and trusted the people beside them. No one tried to stand out. The power of the moment came from unity. Together, they showed what discipline looked like when practiced with patience and respect. The horses remained calm as the crowds grew thicker. More people lined the road now, standing close behind the barriers. Some leaned forward slightly, careful not to cross the line. Others stood very still, almost copying the stillness of the guards. The horses did not react to sudden sounds or movement. Their ears stayed alert, but their steps remained smooth. The riders guided them gently, using quiet signals that only they understood. The officers kept a close watch on every detail. They observed the spacing between units, the timing of commands, and the overall balance of the march. If anything felt off, it was corrected quickly and quietly. The public never noticed these small adjustments, but they mattered. They kept the ceremony flowing without breaking its calm appearance. As the royal guard moved forward, the meaning of their role became clearer. They were not simply part of a display. They represented service, responsibility, and trust. Each guard had earned their place through effort and dedication. Many had spent years preparing for moments like this. Standing tall under public eyes was not easy, but they carried it with quiet confidence. The music continued to guide the march. Drums kept the pace steady, while brass instruments added strength to the sound. The music did not rush. It allowed the soldiers to move with control, step by step. Each note felt purposeful, matching the movement of the guards. Together, sound and motion created a strong presence that filled the mall. People in the crowd noticed small details as the guards passed. The way sunlight reflected off polished buttons. The way shadows moved across the red road. The way horses' hooves touched the ground in perfect timing. These details made the moment feel real and close, even though it carried the weight of history. For the guards, the march required full focus. Their eyes stayed forward, their minds steady. They did not think about the length of the road or the number of people watching. They focused on the next step, the next signal, the next beat of the drum. This focus helped them stay strong from start to finish. Some guards remembered their first days of training. Back then, the movements felt difficult and the standards felt high. Over time, those challenges shaped them. Now, walking in formation, they understood why the training had been so strict. It prepared them not just for movement but for responsibility. The Royal Guard also carried the memory of those who had served before them. Many past generations had marched these same roads, under different skies and in different times. The guards did not speak of it, but they felt it. It added depth to every step they took. They were part of a long line continuing something that mattered. The crowd responded with quiet respect. There was no shouting, no pushing. People seemed to understand the tone of the moment. Some lowered their voices. Others removed hats or stood straighter. Even children sensed that this was something important. The calm of the guard spread outward, shaping the behavior of those watching. As the formation moved forward, the officers ensured that the pace stayed steady. The length of the march tested endurance, but the guards showed no sign of strain. Their breathing stayed controlled. Their posture stayed upright. The horses also remained steady, guided by riders who stayed alert and calm. The buildings along the mall stood as silent witnesses. They had seen many events over the years, but each ceremony carried its own meaning. On this day, they reflected the sound of music and the sight of disciplined movement. The scene felt balanced and complete. The Royal Guard approached the next stage of the ceremony with the same focus they had shown from the start. Their role was far from over, but this part of the march showed their strength clearly. They had moved through crowds, sound, and long distance without losing control or unity. For those watching, this was more than a performance. It was a reminder of values that lasted beyond the moment. Order, patience, teamwork, and respect were not spoken aloud, but they were visible in every step the guards took. As the march continued, the royal guard carried tradition forward with steady hands and calm minds. They did not rush toward the end. They stayed present in the moment, honoring each step as it came. This steady approach gave the ceremony its strength. By the time this stage of the march neared its close, the feeling along the mall was clear. The royal guard had shown what dedication looked like without words. Their presence spoke through movement, balance, and discipline. This part of Trooping the Color 2024 stood as a powerful display of service and tradition. The guards did not seek attention, yet they held it naturally. Through calm strength and careful movement, they reminded everyone watching that true honor often speaks in silence, carried forward step by step. As the ceremony moved toward its final stage, the feeling across the area slowly changed. The long march, the careful movement, and the steady music had all led to this moment. The Royal Guard and mounted units reached their final positions with the same calm focus they had shown from the beginning. Nothing was rushed, nothing was careless. Every step still mattered, even now. The soldiers came to a controlled halt, their movements smooth and exact. Boots stopped together, creating a clear and powerful sound that echoed for a brief moment before fading. Silence followed, not empty silence, but a respectful one. It felt like the city itself was holding its breath. The guards stood tall, eyes forward, posture strong. Their duty was nearly complete, but their focus did not soften. The major generals and senior officers observed the final formation carefully. They looked across the lines, taking in the full picture of what had been achieved. The ceremony had unfolded as planned, guided by discipline and teamwork. Months of preparation had come together in these final moments. The officers understood that what the public saw today was the result of countless unseen hours of effort. The horses stood calmly beside their riders, breathing steady, heads held high. Despite the length of the ceremony and the noise of music and crowds, they remained composed. The riders gently adjusted their reins, maintaining quiet control. The trust between horse and rider was clear, built through time and care. Together, they had played an important role in carrying tradition forward. The crowd remained attentive. People did not rush away. They wanted to take in the final moments fully. Some lowered their cameras, choosing instead to watch with their own eyes. Others stood quietly, reflecting on what they had just seen. There was a shared understanding that this was not just an event to watch, but an experience to feel. As the music softened and came to a close, the air felt lighter, yet meaningful. The sound had guided the ceremony from start to finish, and now its absence made the moment feel complete. The soldiers remained still, showing respect until the very end. This patience was part of their discipline, a reminder that duty does not end until it is fully done. The Major General took one last look at the formation. His expression showed quiet satisfaction. The review, the march, and the display had all met the high standards expected. Tradition had been honored, and the ceremony had been carried out with care. He knew that for many watching, this day would stay in memory for a long time. Slowly, signals were given for the ceremony to conclude. Movements resumed, calm and controlled, just as they had begun hours earlier. The guards adjusted their positions, preparing to depart in an orderly way. Even in this final phase, discipline remained strong. There was no sign of hurry or relief, only steady professionalism. As the soldiers began to move away, the crowd responded with gentle appreciation. There was no loud reaction, only respectful acknowledgement. Some people nodded quietly, others smiled softly. It was clear that what they had witnessed had left an impression. The ceremony had spoken through action, not words. The guards moved off with the same unity they had shown throughout the day. Their steps remained even, their posture upright. Though the main event had ended, they carried themselves as if every moment still mattered. This consistency showed the true depth of their training and commitment. Along the mall, the scene slowly returned to normal. Barriers would be removed later, and the road would once again become part of daily life. But for now, it still carried the feeling of the ceremony. The flags fluttered gently and the building stood quietly, holding the memory of the day. For the soldiers, the end of the ceremony brought a sense of quiet pride. They did not celebrate openly. Instead, they reflected inwardly. Each had played a role in something larger than themselves. They had stood, marched, and served with care. That knowledge stayed with them long after the uniforms were put away. The officers also reflected on the day. They thought about the planning, the training, and the responsibility of maintaining tradition. Seeing everything come together smoothly was rewarding. It confirmed that the values passed down through generations were still alive and strong. The horses were guided back calmly, cared for with the same attention they had received in the morning. Handlers spoke softly, offering reassurance and comfort. The animals had worked hard, and their calm behavior had been essential to the success of the ceremony. Their role was respected and appreciated. As people slowly left the area, conversations remained quiet and thoughtful. Many shared their impressions in low voices. Some spoke about the precision of the march. Others talked about the calm strength of the guards. Everyone seemed to agree that the ceremony carried a special feeling, one that was difficult to describe but easy to remember. Trooping the Color 2024 came to an end without noise or drama. Its strength came from order, patience, and respect. It showed that tradition does not need to change to remain meaningful. It only needs to be carried forward with care and understanding. For those who had watched, the memory of the day stayed with them as they returned to their routines. For those who had marched, the experience became part of their personal journey of service. Both groups shared something important, even if they never spoke to each other. As the final movements faded and the area grew quiet, the meaning of the ceremony remained clear. It was about unity, responsibility, and honoring the past while standing firmly in the present. Through calm strength and steady action, Trooping the Color 2024 left its mark. The day ended not with an announcement but with understanding. Tradition had been respected. Duty had been fulfilled. And in the quiet after the final step, the ceremony lived on in memory, carried forward by all who had been part of it.